The two Nexus Station shimmered against the endless darkness, like a city carved from starlight, suspended in orbit around a long-dead star. It existed beyond the borders of every empire, a place where ancient rivals laid down their weapons, and the future of civilizations was decided with words instead of war. Today, its halls carried the weight of history. Ambassador Chen Wei walked through the station's broad corridors with measured, unhurried steps, his small human delegation following close behind. The polished floor reflected the brilliant lights overhead, while delegates from dozens of civilizations paused to watch the humans pass. In his left hand, Chen carried an ordinary black briefcase. It looked insignificant. Inside rested a collection of documents capable of deciding the fate of billions. His face revealed nothing. Years of diplomacy had taught him that emotions were best kept hidden. Even so, he could feel the pressure settling heavily in his chest. The doors to the assembly chamber slid open. The sheer scale of the room stole the breath from every first-time visitor. Massive circular tiers rose toward a ceiling that disappeared into shimmering darkness, resembling an ancient amphitheater built on the scale of a moon. 47 civilizations occupied those seats, each represented by beings stranger than the last. Some resembled towering insects wrapped in living armor, others flowed like liquid given thought and purpose. Several appeared to be creatures of living flame, crystal, or pure energy. Every pair of eyes turned toward the human delegation. Some watched with curiosity, others with open contempt. Few looked almost sympathetic. None of them knew why humanity had requested this emergency session. Within the next hour, every civilization in the chamber would realize they had completely underestimated the quiet man carrying the small black briefcase. Some breath oxygen, others needed special atmosphere suits, but they all shared one thing: they were here to judge humanity. Chen took his place at the center podium. Lights above made him feel exposed, like a specimen under examination. He looked up at the faces watching him. Some showed curiosity, most showed contempt. Chancellor Voth of the Krathan hegemony sat in the highest seat. The Krathan were the oldest members of the Galactic Council. Their empire stretched across 2,000 star systems. Voth's skin looked like purple leather, and his 3 eyes gleamed with intelligence and arrogance. When he spoke, his voice boomed through translation devices that turned his words into every language present. The human presence himself, Voth said. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Tell us, Ambassador Chen, why should we listen to anything your primitive species has to say? Chen opened his briefcase slowly. He placed a data crystal on the podium's reader. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing chart, statistics, and treaty proposals. Humanity comes in peace, Chen began. His voice was steady and clear. We recognize that we are new to the galactic community. We have made mistakes in our expansion. Some of our colonies occupy worlds that your ancient laws designated as council territory. We apologize for these violations. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Delegate that looked like a floating crystal cluster spoke up. Your apologies mean nothing, human. Your kind spreads like a disease. 12 worlds in 5 years. You consume resources without permission. You ignore our borders. Chen nodded. That is why we propose a comprehensive peace agreement. We offer To share our resources, we will participate in joint colonization projects. We will open our culture in technology for exchange. We ask only for recognition as equal partners in the galactic community. The laughter stopped. Now the chamber filled with angry buzzing and clicking sounds as species consulted among themselves. Thoth raised one clawed hand for silence. Equal partners, Voth's voice dripped with disbelief. You control one star system, one. We control thousands. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your military consists of metal tubes that throw projectiles. You still use chemical rockets for basic transport, and you dare to claim equality. A delegate who resembled a mantis stood up. The Cran speaks truth. Humanity has nothing we need or want. Your biology is fragile. Your culture is violent and chaotic. Your history is written in the blood of your own species. Chen's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained calm. Our history has darkness. Yes, we do not deny this, but we have learned from our mistakes. We unified our world after terrible wars. We chose cooperation over destruction. This is why we extend this offer now. Vieth leaned forward. You misunderstand your position, human. You are not here to negotiate. You are here to receive our judgment. The Chancellor pressed to control, and new images replaced Chen's proposals. They showed human colonies, human ships, human settlements spreading across space like a map of conquest. The Galactic Council has deliberated on the human question for months. Vieth continued. We have reached our decision. These are our terms. Humanity will abandon all colonies beyond your home system. You will dismantle your military fleet. You will pay tribute to the Council for the next 100 standard years. Compensation for the resources you have stolen. You will accept Council observers on Earth. To ensure compliance, you will share all your scientific knowledge with the Council, and you will accept these terms within 24 hours or face the consequences. The chamber erupted. Approval. Delegates clicked and roared their agreement. Chen stood silently at the center, letting the noise wash over him. He looked at each section of the chamber, memorizing faces and species. When the noise faded, Chen spoke again. Chancellor Vileth, honored delegates, what you propose is not peace. It is subjugation. It is slavery dressed legal language. Vileth's laugh was like grinding stones. Call it what you wish. It is reality. You are one species against thousands. Your military is a joke. We have 10,000 warships ready to enforce our will. You have perhaps 100 vessels. Worth noting, the mathematics are simple, even for a species as young as yours. I understand the numbers, Chen said quietly, but numbers do not tell the whole story. I ask for 48 hours to consult with my government. Surely the Council can grant this small courtesy. You receive 24 hours, Vileth replied. Not 1 minute more. Return here with your acceptance, or return here to receive our declaration of war. Either way, the human problem ends tomorrow. Chen gathered his materials slowly. He placed the data crystal back in his briefcase. With careful precision, his team stood and prepared to leave. As they walked toward the exit, a younger delegate, one of the few species that looked almost human, whispered as they passed, "Accept the terms, Ambassador. Your species is young and has much to learn. Pride is not worth extinction." Chen paused and looked at the delegate. For the first time, emotion showed on his face. It was not fear or anger, it was sadness, deep, profound sadness. "Thank you for your concern," Chen said softly, "but you misunderstand. This is not about pride." The human delegation left the chamber. Behind them, the council celebrated their victory. They had put the upstart humans in their proper place. They had shown these primitive creatures the order of the galaxy. Tomorrow would bring humanity's surrender, and the galaxy would remain as it had always been. Chancellor Vyath watched the humans leave and felt satisfied. He had dealt with aggressive young species before. They all learned the same lesson eventually. The strong ruled and the weak obeyed. It was the natural order. It was inevitable. None of them saw the expression on Ambassador Chen's face as he entered his ship. None of them heard the quiet conversation he had with his communication officer. None of them understood that humanity's delegation had not come seeking permission. They had come offering mercy. Chen sat in his private cabin and opened a secure channel to Earth. The encryption was beyond anything the Council could break. Humanity had learned many lessons from its bloody history. One of those lessons was simple: always assume your enemies are listening and always have secrets they cannot steal. They rejected the proposal. Chen said to the screen, "Proceed to Phase 2, on the other end, in a bunker deep beneath the surface of Earth." The War Council received his message across human space, on every colony, on every ship, on every station. Humanity began to prepare, not for surrender, for war, but not the kind of war the galaxy expected. Chen's ship docked with the OSF Covenant, a vessel that appeared on no official registry. The Covenant waited in a dark region of space, hidden behind sensor-dampening fields that made it invisible to casual observation. As Chen walked through the airlock, armed Marines saluted with crisp precision. Their eyes held the look of soldiers who knew what was coming. The War Council chamber was deep inside the ship, protected by meters of armor and redundant systems. 12 people sat around a circular table. These were not politicians or diplomats. They were the people humanity trusted when extinction was on the line. Military commanders, intelligence directors, civilian leaders who understood the cost of survival. General Marcus Torres stood as Chen entered. Torres was old, his hair white, his face marked with scars from Earth's last Great War. He had been 20 years old when World War II nearly destroyed humanity. He remembered the nuclear fire, the biological plagues, the desperate final months when 2 billion people died and civilization teetered on the edge. They refused, Torres said. It was not a question. They did more than refuse, Chen replied, taking his seat. They humiliated us. They demanded complete surrender, dismantling of our colonies, tribute payments, and oversight of Earth itself. We have 24 hours to accept or face their fleets. Admiral Kenji Soto, commander of humanity's naval forces, leaned back in his chair. How many ships are they mobilizing? Initial estimates suggest 10,000 warships from various council species. They believe overwhelming force will make us fold. Immediately, a woman at the far end of the table spoke. Dr. Amara O'Connell was small and soft-spoken, but everyone in the room knew her importance. She directed the Special Projects Division, the department responsible for humanity's most classified research. Her dark eyes held a mixture of intelligence and deep sorrow. Then we proceed with Prometheus, she said quietly. The room fell silent. Even these hardened leaders felt the weight of those words, protocol. Prometheus was humanity's darkest secret, its final insurance policy, the thing they hoped never to use. Tours called up a holographic display. It showed Earth as it had been 75 years ago, cities burning, mushroom clouds rising, billions dead or dying. The worst moment in human history. We need to remember why we're here, Tours said. After World War II, humanity faced a choice. We could die in our own hatred, or we could unite and survive. We chose survival, but we also made a promise. Never again would humanity bow to tyrants. Never again would we allow ourselves to be enslaved or destroyed. He changed the display. Now it showed humanity's expansion into space, the first colony ships leaving Earth, the discovery of faster-than-light travel, the joy of finding new worlds, new hope. When we discovered FTL, we also discovered something else. Tour continued. We were not alone. Galaxy was full of life. For 5 years we watched from the shadows. We listened to their communications. We studied their societies, their technologies, their wars. Chen took over the explanation. What we learned terrified us. Galactic Council is not a democracy. It is an oligarchy of old species who control resources and dictate terms to younger races. Species that resist are destroyed. Species that comply become permanent underclasses, serving the Council for generations. Admiral Saad added, we also learned about their military doctrine. They rely on energy, weapons, shields, and numerical superiority. They fight wars of attrition, using their vast resources to overwhelm opponents. They have not faced a pure competitor in 3,000 years. They have grown comfortable, complacent. Twinned. Dr. Okonkwo stood and walked to the display. She changed it again. Now it showed technical schematics that looked alien and terrible. During the dark days after World War II, humanity's best scientists worked on ultimate weapons, not just nuclear bombs, but reality itself. We learned to manipulate fundamental forces, gravity, dark energy, quantum fields. Her voice grew quieter. We learned how to weaponize stars. The display showed a sun stable and life-giving. Then it showed what happened when certain particles were introduced into the stellar core. The fusion process accelerated. The star expanded. Within hours it went supernova, destroying everything in the system. For 20 years, every human exploration ship has carried special payloads. Okonkwo continued. We have placed devices in 3,000 star systems along major galactic trade routes. Every council home world is targeted. Every major military base, every critical supply hub. If humanity falls, if we are pushed to extinction, these devices activate automatically. They cannot be stopped or disarmed without codes that only exist in human hands. The room remained silent. Even knowing this plan existed, hearing it stated so plainly made it real, terrible, necessary. Civilian Council member Maria Santos spoke up. She represented Earth's civilian government. Is there no other way? 3,000 systems, trillions of lives. The devices will never activate if the Council accepts peace, Chen replied. That is the point, mutually assured. Destruction only works if both sides Know the stakes. Right now the Council thinks we are helpless. They need to understand the truth. Tours activated another display. It showed human military assets scattered across space. On paper they looked insignificant compared to Council forces, 100 major warships against 10,000, but the display highlighted special capabilities that changed the equation. Our ships are smaller and faster. Tours explained. We use relativistic kinetics instead of energy weapons. A projectile moving at 70% of light speed carries more destructive power than any plasma cannon. Our targeting systems are AI-assisted with quantum processing. We can calculate firing solutions in microscans. Our communications use quantum entanglement. Impossible to intercept or jam. Admiral Satsuma continued. More importantly, we have studied the Council's tactics for years. We know their formations, their response patterns, their weaknesses. They know nothing about us. We have the advantage of surprise, superior information, and soldiers who understand what they fight for. The Council fights for territory and resources, Chen said. Our people fight for survival, for freedom, for the right to exist without bowing to masters. There is no comparison in motivation. Dr. Okonkwo sat down again, looking exhausted. I have spent 10 years developing protocol. Prometheus. I have had nightmares about it every single night. The thought of being responsible for so much death makes me sick, but I remember the history files. I remember what happened to species who trusted in the mercy of conquerors. There is this reason the galaxy has so many extinct civilizations. Tours looked around the table. We all understand the stakes. In 24 hours, Chen will return to the Nexus station. He will deliver our response, not surrender, not compliance. One final offer of genuine peace. If they refuse, we go to war. If they push us too far, we reveal Prometheus. Are there any objections? No one spoke. These people had been chosen because they understood hard choices. They had all lived through Earth's darkest days. They knew what happened when good people chose submission over resistance. Then we are decided. Tor said, Chen, you will offer our original treaty one more time. You will make it clear this is their final opportunity. Dr. Okonkwo, you will prepare the Prometheus broadcast just in case. Admiral Sato, you will move our fleets into defensive positions around our colonies. If they attack, we make them pay for every inch of space. Meeting ended as people filed out. Chen approached Dr. Okonkwo. She stood alone at the display, looking at the star system simulations. We are about to become the most feared species in galactic history, Chen said softly. I know, Okonkwo replied. Sometimes I wonder if we are the monsters in this story. We gave them a choice. We offered peace first. That makes us better than monsters, does it? We are threatening to destroy thousands of worlds. Chen was quiet for a moment. My grandmother survived World War II. She told me something I never forgot. She said the worst thing about surviving is knowing you could have prevented it. The people who started that war thought they would win. They thought their enemies would back down. They were wrong and billions died. Because of their arrogance, we are giving the Council a chance to learn from our history. If they refuse to learn, the responsibility is theirs. 23 hours later, Chen's shuttle approached Nexus station again. This time he carried no briefcase full of proposals. He carried only one message: humanity's final offer. Behind him across human space, military forces prepared for war. Soldiers checked their weapons, ships moved to strategic positions, civilians on the colonies prepared emergency shelters. Everyone knew what was coming. In the War Council chamber, Dr. Okonkwo sat before a recording device. If Chen's message failed, if the council chose war, she would broadcast humanity's terrible secret to the entire galaxy. The sword hanging over civilization would be revealed. She hoped it would not be necessary. She prayed the council would see reason, but she was ready to do what was needed. They all were. That was what made humanity dangerous, not their weapons, not their technology, their absolute willingness to do whatever was necessary to remain free. Ambassador Chen stood before the Galactic Council once more. The chamber felt different now. The delegates sat forward in their seats, eager to hear humanity's surrender. Chancellor Voth wore an expression of satisfaction, his 3 eyes gleaming with anticipated victory. Ambassador Chen Voth announced, your 24 hours have expired. Present your government's acceptance of our terms. Chen reached into his jacket pocket and removed a single data chip. He placed it carefully on the podium. His movements were slow and deliberate, like a priest performing a sacred ritual. Humanity has considered your terms carefully, Chen said. His voice echoed in the vast chamber. We find them unacceptable. Instead, we reaffirm our original proposal for mutual cooperation and shared prosperity. We urge you to reconsider. This is your final opportunity for peace. The chamber exploded in outrage. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. Translation devices struggled to keep up with the chaos. Valoth raised his hand for silence, his purple skin darkening with anger. You dare refuse? You insignificant creatures dare to threaten the Galactic Council? We threaten no one. Chen replied calmly. We simply decline to become slaves. There is a difference. Valoth stood his full height, making him tower over the chamber. Then you choose extinction. The Council hereby declares a state of war with humanity. Our fleets will reduce your colonies to dust. Your home world will be occupied. Your species will learn the price of arrogance. You have 48 hours to evacuate civilians before our forces arrive. This is more mercy than you deserve. Chen picked up his data chip and placed it back in his pocket. I am sorry you have made this choice, Chancellor. History will judge which of us showed arrogance today. The human ambassador walked out of the chamber for the last time. Behind him, the council celebrated. They had been generous. They told themselves they had offered terms. They had given warnings. Now they would demonstrate the price of defiance. 3 days later, the first Galactic Council fleet arrived at New Nairobi, humanity's largest colony outside the Sol system. The fleet was commanded by High Admiral Zay of the Vorton Collective. Zay was a veteran of 30 military campaigns. He had broken rebellions, destroyed pirate fleets, and enforced council law across hundreds of systems. His fleet consisted of 800 warships, dreadnoughts the size of cities, carriers that launched swarms of fighters, cruisers bristling with plasma cannons. It was enough firepower to sterilize a planet against one human colony. It seemed like overkill. This will be quick, Zex told his officers. The humans have no significant military presence here, a few orbital platforms, maybe some ground-based defenses. We will demonstrate overwhelming force and they will surrender. We might not even need to fire a shot. The fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the new Nairobi system. Sensors immediately began scanning for targets. What they found confused them. The colony itself showed up clearly, cities on the surface, orbital stations, civilian traffic, but the military defenses were minimal. Dozen platforms in orbit armed with what looked like primitive rail guns. Handful of small patrol ships, nothing that could threaten a fleet of this size. Is this some kind of trick? One of Zex's officers asked. Intelligence said the humans were preparing for war. Perhaps they evacuated their forces. Zex replied, or perhaps their military is even weaker than we thought. Proceed with the attack. Target the orbital platforms first. The fleet advanced in standard formation. Dreadnoughts at the front, their shields glowing with protective energy. Support vessels behind, ready to provide covering fire. It was a formation that had worked for centuries against countless enemies. When they reached weapons range, the orbital platforms opened fire. Magnetic accelerators launched projectiles at incredible speeds. The slugs were simple metal rods, nothing sophisticated. They struck the lead dreadnought shields and were absorbed harmlessly. Return fire. Zex ordered, disable those platforms. Plasma cannons lit up the darkness of space. Brilliant streams of superheated matter crossed the distance to the human platforms. The first volley should have destroyed them all, but something impossible happened. The human platforms moved. They accelerated with sudden bursts of thrust, dodging the plasma streams with precise timing. Their movements were too fast, too coordinated. No organic crew could react that quickly. They are using automated systems, an officer reported. AI-controlled defensive networks. Before Zex could respond, the second wave of railgun fire came, but these projectiles were different. They were smaller, faster, and there were thousands of them. They spread out in a cloud, overwhelming the dreadnought's tracking systems. The impacts came like a storm of meteors. Each projectile was tiny, but at relativistic speeds they carried devastating kinetic energy. Shields flickered and failed under the assault. Armor plating and cracked. Systems went offline. The lead dreadnought's hull ruptured in 3 places. Impossible. Zex whispered, how can they calculate trajectories like that? The answer came from New Nairobi's surface. Hidden installations that had looked like civilian structures revealed their true nature. Massive electromagnetic launchers began firing. They hurled projectiles the size of buildings into space. Each one was a guided missile, accelerating to 70% of light speed. Before hitting its target, the second dreadnought disappeared in a flash of released energy. One moment it was their shields glowing. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of debris. The kinetic impact had been like a small nuclear weapon. All ships evasive maneuvers. Z shouted, return fire. Full barrage. The fleet broke formation, trying to spread out and present harder targets. Plasma cannons fired continuously. Energy beams lanced through space. Missiles launched in waves. It was enough firepower to destroy a moon, but the human defenses adapted faster than anything Zex had ever seen. The platforms and ground Installations shared targeting data, real time, creating a defensive network that operated like a single organism. They prioritized threats, calculated probabilities, and responded with machine precision. More ships fell. Carrier took a railgun slug through its main reactor and exploded. A cruiser lost its engines and tumbled helplessly into New Nairobi's atmosphere. Fighter squadrons launched only to be cut down by point defense systems they could not see coming, and through it all, a message broadcast continuously from the colony: we do not wish to fight, please withdraw your forces, we offer terms of peace. Zex could not believe what he was seeing. His fleet outnumbered the human defenses by hundreds to one. His ships were more advanced, his weapons more powerful, yet he was losing. The problem was not the weapons themselves. Energy weapons dispersed over distance, losing power the farther they traveled. But kinetic weapons did not lose energy. A projectile moving at relativistic speeds hit just as hard at maximum range as at point blank, and the human targeting systems were beyond anything in the Council's arsenal. After 6 hours of battle, Z ordered a retreat. He had lost 90 ships and thousands of crew members. The survivors were damaged and low on ammunition. He pulled back to a safe distance and sent an urgent message to the Council. The intelligence reports were wrong. The humans are not primitive. Their weapons are simple but devastatingly effective. Their targeting and coordination are superior to ours. They have been hiding their true capabilities. I need reinforcements immediately. Similar scenes played out across human space. At New Beijing, a Council fleet lost a third of its ships before withdrawing. At Terra Nova, the attackers could not even reach the colony before being driven off. At Proxima Station, human defenders lured the enemy into a minefield of autonomous drones that hunted ships with terrifying efficiency. The worst disaster came at Port Darwin. There, a massive Council fleet of 2,000 ships arrived, determined to make an example. They expected an easy victory. Instead, they found a human naval task force waiting for them. Commander Sarah Okafor commanded the USF Determination, humanity's newest battleship. She had trained for this moment for 5 years. Her crew was ready. Her ship was equipped with technology the Council had never seen. Multiple contacts, her sensor officer reported. 2,000 enemy ships, various classes. They are adopting attack formation. Okafor studied the tactical display. Her task force numbered only 35 ships. On paper it was suicide, but paper did not account for preparation, knowledge, and sheer determination. All ships initiate pattern Delta, she ordered. Let them come to us. The human ships formed a defensive sphere and waited. They looked like prey, helpless before the advancing predator. The Council fleet accelerated, eager to finish the fight quickly. When the enemy reached optimal range, Okafor gave the order, fire. The human ships unleashed hell, not plasma or energy beams, but solid projectiles accelerated to impossible speeds by electromagnetic forces. Each ship carried hundreds of these weapons, and they fired in coordinated volleys calculated by quantum computers. The Council formation shattered. Ships exploded as kinetic rounds punched through shields and armor like paper. Others tumbled out of control, their engines destroyed, their systems failing. The survivors tried to return fire, but the human ships were moving too fast, accelerating and decelerating in patterns that made targeting impossible. Their shields do not matter, HFY explained to her crew as they fought. Physics is physics, kinetic. 3 months into the war, Chancellor Voth sat in his private chambers and stared at casualty reports that should have been impossible. The Galactic Council had lost over 4,000 ships, 23 colonies had been cut off from supply lines, 6 entire fleets had been forced to retreat, and humanity had lost less than 200 vessels. The mathematics made no sense. The Council had superior numbers, superior technology, and thousands of years of military experience. Yet they were losing to a species that had discovered faster than light travel only decades ago. Voth's military advisors filled the room, arguing among themselves. Some demanded more aggressive tactics, others wanted to negotiate a ceasefire. All of them looked exhausted and frightened. "Explain to me again how this is possible," Voth demanded. High Admiral Z, who had barely survived the battle at New Nairobi, stepped forward. He looked like he had aged 10 years and 3 months. "We have been fighting wars the same way for centuries, Chancellor. We rely on overwhelming force, energy shields, and superior firepower. The humans have made us obsolete." "Elaborate," Voth said coldly. Zax activated a holographic display showing battle footage. A human ship accelerated to incredible speeds, dodging plasma fire with precise movements. It fired a single projectile, a simple metal rod moving at 70% of light speed. The rod hit a Council dreadnought and went completely through it front to back, as if the armor was not even there. "They use kinetic weapons exclusively," Zax explained. "Our shields are designed to disperse energy. They do almost nothing against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. Our armor cannot withstand that kind of impact. One hit can destroy a capital ship." Another admiral spoke up. "It is worse than that. Their targeting systems are far superior to ours. They use artificial intelligence networks that share data across their entire fleet in real time. They predict our movements before we make them. They exploit weaknesses in our formations that we did not know existed, and their tactics," Zax continued, "are unlike anything we have encountered. They avoid direct confrontation. When they can, they strike supply lines, communication relays, isolated patrols. They force us to spread our forces thin, then concentrate their attacks on single targets. They are fighting a guerrilla war in space." Voth slammed his fist on the desk. "They are one species. We are 47. How can we not overwhelm them through sheer numbers? Because they are not fighting like a species trying to conquer territory," a younger officer said quietly. "They are fighting like a species fighting for survival. Every engagement they broadcast offers to negotiate. They take no prisoners because they cannot spare the resources. They destroy our ships but avoid civilian targets. They are trying to hurt us enough that we will stop, but not so much that we cannot recover." Room fell silent. The implications were disturbing. Humanity was not trying to win the war. They were trying to make it too expensive for the Council to continue. "What about their homeworld?" Voth asked. "We have the coordinates for Earth. Send a fleet to destroy it. Force their surrender." Zay shook his head. "We tried, Chancellor. Last month a fleet of 1,500 ships was assembled for a Direct assault on the Sol system. They never returned. What happened according to the only escape pod we recovered? They encountered defenses we could not have imagined. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was actually a massive minefield of autonomous weapons. The moon was covered in railgun installations, and the humans had 50 warships waiting, using the sun's gravity well to slingshot themselves at incredible speeds. The fleet was massacred. Voth stood and paced the room. Then we increase our commitment. We mobilize every ship, every soldier, every resource. We crush them. Absolutely, Chancellor and advisor said. Carefully, we are already straining our economy. Member species are questioning the cost of this war. The humans have destroyed enough of our cargo vessels. That trade has been disrupted. Colonies are experiencing shortages. If we commit everything to this fight, we risk destabilizing the entire council. Before Vayath could respond, an alarm sounded. A communication officer burst into the room, his face pale. Chancellor, we are receiving a broadcast. It is coming from the human command. It is being transmitted on all frequencies across the entire galaxy. Everyone will hear it. Show me, Vayath ordered. The holographic display changed. Dr. Amara Okonkwo appeared, sitting in a simple chair against a plain background. She looked tired and sad, but her voice was clear and steady. My name is Dr. Amara Okonkwo. I am the director of Humanities Special Projects Division. I am broadcasting this message because the Galactic Council has left us no choice. We have offered peace. We have shown restraint. We have tried to minimize casualties even while defending ourselves. The Council has rejected every offer and continues to prosecute a war of extinction against my species. Therefore, I must tell you all a truth that we hoped never to reveal. She paused and the display changed. It showed technical specifications, star charts, and mathematical formulas that made Voth's blood run cold. 20 years ago, humanity seeded 3,000 star systems with specialized devices. These devices are placed deep within stellar cores, far beyond any ability to detect or remove them. They are designed to destabilize fusion reactions and trigger supernovas. Every major council homeworld is targeted. Every critical military installation, every central trade hub. The chamber erupted in shocked voices, but Voth could not look away from the screen. These devices are controlled by automated systems. Akono continued. If Earth is destroyed, if humanity is pushed to extinction, if we lose contact with our colonies for more than 30 days, the devices activate. There is no way to disarm them without access codes that only exist in human-controlled systems. There is no way to stop a chain reaction once it begins, and there are 3,000 of them. She paused again, and now her expression showed the weight of what she was saying. This is what you call mutually assured destruction. It is a concept from our darkest days. If you destroy us, we destroy you. Not because we want to, not because we gain anything from it, but because a species that will not defend its freedom does not deserve to survive. The display showed simulations of what would happen if the devices activated. Stars going supernova, planets burning, entire civilizations wiped out in hours. Akonko's voice continued over the images. We do not want this. We have never wanted this. That is why Ambassador Chin came to you with offers of peace. That is why we have continued broadcasting terms even during the fighting. We want to live in harmony with the galaxy. We want to share our culture, our knowledge, our friendship. But we will not accept slavery. We will not allow our species to be subjugated or destroyed. If you push us to extinction, we will take you with us. She leaned forward, her dark eyes staring directly into the camera. To the Galactic Council I say this: stop the war, accept our original terms. We can still have peace. To the people of the galaxy I say this: we are not your enemies. We never wanted to be. We hope you will convince your leaders to choose wisely. And to my own people I say this: I am sorry that I created such a terrible weapon, but I am not sorry that it may save us. The broadcast ended. Vayath sat in stunned silence around him. His advisors were talking frantically, but he heard none of it. His mind was racing through the implications. If the humans were telling the truth, if they really had weaponized 3,000 stars, then the war was unwinnable. Humanity could not be destroyed without triggering galactic genocide. Even if the Council could somehow remove the devices, the process would take years. Years during which humanity would continue to fight and win. Chancellor, one of his advisors said urgently, our scientists are analyzing the technical data in the broadcast. They say it is legitimate. The humans have actually done this. They have been preparing for this war for 2 decades. Vayath finally understood. The peace negotiations had never been about asking permission. They had been about giving the Council one last chance. The humans had come with an olive branch in one hand and a doomsday device in the other. Get Ambassador Chen on a secure channel, Vayath said quietly. Tell him I want to discuss terms across the galaxy. The reaction to Okonkwo's broadcast was chaos. Some species were terrified, others were impressed, many were furious that humanity had dared to threaten them all. But everyone understood one thing clearly: the humans were serious. In the War Council chamber on Earth, General Torres watched the galactic communication networks light up with activity. Species were arguing among themselves. Some wanted to continue the war, others demanded immediate peace talks. The Council was fracturing. Will they accept terms? Admiral Sato asked. They have no choice, Torres replied. We have shown them we cannot be conquered militarily. We have shown them the price of trying. Now they must decide if their pride is worth the risk of galactic annihilation. Dr. Akingwu sat alone in her laboratory, watching the same feeds. She had just made herself the most hated person in galactic history. Her name would be remembered as the architect of a weapon that threatened trillions of lives. But she had also saved humanity. If the Council accepted peace, if they backed down, then Protocol Prometheus Wu. 1 year after Dr. Akingwu's broadcast, Ambassador Chen walked through the corridors of Nexus Station once more. Everything looked the same as it had during that first fateful meeting. And GT snorts. And GT, the polished floors, the high ceilings, the mixing of different atmospheres and artificial gravities to accommodate diverse species, but everything felt different. This time when Chen entered the Council chamber, delegates stood to acknowledge him. Not all of them, not enthusiastically, but they stood. It was a sign of respect that had not been there before. Chancellor Valve sat in his high seat looking older and wearier than. Chen remembered the war had aged them. The Chancellor gestured for Chen to take his place at the central podium. Ambassador Chen Valve said formally, the Galactic Council recognizes the human delegation. We are here to finalize the peace treaty as agreed. The negotiations had taken months. Every clause had been argued over, every word chosen carefully, but the basic structure was simple. It was Chen's original proposal, the one he had presented over a year ago. Resource sharing, joint colonization, projects, cultural exchange, equal partnership. The Council had gotten nothing of what they originally demanded. No tribute, no surrender, no dismantling of human colonies or military forces. They had learned what many species throughout history had learned the hard way. Some opponents could not be bullied into submission. Chen placed the signed treaty documents on the podium's reader. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber showing the terms in every council language. Representatives from all 47 species were present, either person or through communication links. This treaty represents a new beginning, Chen said, not just for humanity but for the entire galaxy. We have shown that peace can be achieved between equals, that cooperation benefits everyone more than domination, that diversity of thought and culture makes us all stronger. He paused and looked around the chamber. Some faces showed genuine hope, others showed barely concealed resentment, a few showed fear. Always fear. I know that many of you do not trust us, Chen continued. I know that protocol Prometheus terrifies you. It should, it terrifies us too, but I want you to understand something. We created that weapon out of desperation, not malice. We looked at galactic history and saw species after species conquered, enslaved, or destroyed. We decided we would rather die free than live as subject. That choice may seem extreme to you, to us, it is the only choice worth making. A delegate from one of the smaller council species stood. It was the same young representative who had whispered to Chen to accept terms a year ago. Ambassador, your species has achieved what you wanted. You have your freedom, you have your colonies, you have proven your strength. Will you now remove the stellar destabilization devices? Will you show good faith by dismantling protocol Prometheus? The chamber fell silent. This was the question everyone wanted answered. Could humanity be trusted, or would they hold the galaxy hostage forever? Chen had known this question would come. He and the War Council had debated the answer for weeks. In the end, the decision had been unanimous, though it brought him no joy. No, Chen said simply. Protocol Prometheus will remain active. Angry voices erupted throughout the chamber. Delegates shouted protests and accusations. Vilth raised his hand for silence, but it took several minutes for order to be restored. Explain yourself, Vilth demanded coldly. Chen's expression was sad but firm. We live in a galaxy where 47 species once tried to force us into slavery, where thousands of warships were sent to destroy our colonies, where our offers of peace were met with contempt and violence. We have signed a treaty, yes, but paper is not trust. Words are not safety. If we remove our deterrent, what happens in 10 years, 2050, when the current generation retires and new leaders take power? When the memory of this war fades and someone decides humanity is weak enough to attack Again, he looked directly at Violf. You teach your children the lesson we have learned, that preparation prevents war, that strength preserves peace, that those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. We will not forget, we will not disarm, and we will not give you the opportunity to enslave or destroy us. Military commander from the Vorten collective stood angrily. Then you hold us hostage, you demand we live under threat of extinction. No, Chen replied. We demand nothing except what this treaty guarantees: mutual respect, fair treatment, and equal partnership. As long as those conditions are met, Protocol Prometheus will never activate. The threat exists only for those who would threaten us. If you want it removed, spend the next 50 years proving we do not need it. Show us a galaxy where weaker species are protected rather than exploited. Demonstrate that you have learned the lessons of this war, then perhaps we can talk about disarmament. The Vorten commander remained standing. And if we refuse to live under this threat, what if we unite the entire galaxy against you? Chen's voice remained calm, but his words were sharp. Then you will learn why Protocol Prometheus exists. We do not want to use it. We pray we never have to, but if you push us back to the edge of extinction, we will pull you into the void with us. That is not a threat, it is a promise. It is the promise that free people make. When faced with chains, we choose death over slavery. Always. The chamber descended into chaos again. Species argued among themselves. Some understood humanity's position, others saw it as unforgivable arrogance, but underneath the arguments there was a deeper understanding. Humanity had changed the rules of galactic politics forever. Before, the strong simply took what they wanted. Now even the weakest species could make itself too dangerous to attack. Other young civilizations would study the human example. They would develop their own deterrents, their own ways of ensuring survival. The galaxy would never be the same. After hours of debate, the treaty was formally ratified. Every species representative placed their mark on the document. Some did it willingly, others did it because they had no choice, but it was done. As the session ended, Chen gathered his materials slowly. He felt exhausted down to his bones. They had won, but it felt like a hollow victory. Humanity was safe but isolated, respected but feared, free but alone. Violeth approached him as other delegates filed out. The Chancellor's expression was complicated, mixing anger, respect, and something that might have been sadness. You have made yourselves the most dangerous species in galactic history, Violeth said quietly. Every species will fear you now. Every interaction will be colored by the knowledge of what you are capable of. Is that the legacy you wanted? Chen looked at the older alien for a long moment. No, Chancellor, it is not what we wanted. What we wanted was simple respect and peaceful coexistence. What we got was a war we did not start. We did what was necessary to survive. If that makes us monsters in your eyes, I can live with that. History is written by the survivors. And if you had lost, if we had destroyed you before you could reveal your weapon, then you would have succeeded in wiping out one more species. The galaxy would have continued as before, and eventually you would have done the same to another species and another, until finally you encountered someone who could not be defeated. It was inevitable. Chancellor, we are simply the first to say no and have the means To make it stick, Violeth was silent. For a moment, what happens now, Chin? Consider the question. Now we try to build something better. We honor this treaty. We share our knowledge and learn from yours. We prove that different species can coexist without one dominating the other. And we hope that in time, fear becomes respect, and respect becomes trust. That will take generations. Then we have time, Chin replied. We are patient. We have learned patience the hard way. 6 months later, something unexpected happened. A newly discovered species made first contact with the galactic community. They were young, enthusiastic, and excited to join the council. They had no idea about the human war protocol, Prometheus, or the new order of things. The council debated how to handle them. The traditional approach would be to offer membership terms that heavily favored existing members to ensure the newcomers understood their place in the hierarchy, to remind them that the old species had power and the new ones did not. But before the council could present their terms, the new species received visitors. A human delegation arrived. Their system, Ambassador Chen himself, led the mission. The humans offered technology, resources, and knowledge. They explained galactic politics honestly, including the dangers and opportunities. They shared their own history, including the war and the terrible choices they had made. We want you to have the tools to protect yourselves, Chen told the new species leaders. We want you to negotiate with the council from a position of strength, not because we want allies against them, but because we want to see a galaxy where every species is truly equal. When the new species arrived at Nexus Station for their first council meeting, they came prepared. They had defenses designed with human help. They had economic plans that ensured independence, and they had the confidence of those who knew they could not be easily pushed around. Thank you for watching, and comment for next part.